But here we are. All right, so as I normally do, when I finish playing a game, I like to review it off the cuff about my impressions about how the game is. Um, so I'm really surprised I finished this game. I honestly, I didn't. Let me see, duplicate. Setting, no, content, collections. Well, actually, it's almost, it's almost 18 hours. I would say maybe 15 to 20 hours, which is actually, it's not too bad, all things considered. I thought it would have been a lot easier, a lot quicker than that, but, well, a lot longer than that, but. All right, so I finally finished Halo Infinite, the game that's 6 years in the making after Halo 5, which everybody and their grandmother apparently pooped on. Do I think it was? It was. Let's go back to Halo 5 a little bit. Let's go into a little bit of the history of the game that I've had with the series. So when I first bought my original Xbox. I bought it with Halo 1 Combat Evolved. I absolutely loved it. There were parts of it that I wasn't always 100% sure. I remember getting stuck at a few places because the missions weren't super clear where you're supposed to go. But other than that, I remember it being really, really good and I really loved it. Keep in mind, I haven't played 1, 2, 3, 4 after their release. So I played 1 when it got released, 2 when it got released. Actually, Halo 2, I have the special edition. It has a metal casing. 3, 4, and 5 as well. So I haven't actually replayed. These are a lot of recollections of when I played the game. When I played 1, it was fantastic. I loved it. Then 2 was good. I loved it, but I didn't like the ending because it ended up being a to be continued. Like basically the game could have ended with to be continued, and that's basically what it could have done. Which was a I hate that. And it was really like most games that that are in a series. That is true. That's basically how it's gonna go. That's what it's gonna be. But it was really, really like upfront and in your face that it was like third was gonna conclude the story, right? And then Halo 3 played around. So Halo 2, I played the multiplayer. It's the last real multiplayer that I invested time in. Um, like the storyline. 3, great conclusion to the story. I loved it. I might actually go back because I don't remember fully 100% the game. So it would be nice to go back and remember how it actually concluded. And then there was Halo 4. And now these are all the main entries. I didn't play Halo Reach much, Halo Reach 2, ODST, and stuff like that. So I'm just talking about the main series, the mainline series. Then there was Halo 4, which was the first one with 343 Industries, which wasn't bad, but I remember it being short. And 5 was really short. 5 I played in one weekend. I think it was like not even 10 hours, like the storyline. And the way I felt about 4 and 5, they put more an emphasis on the multiplayer because that's the bread and butter of Halo. Like a lot of people love Halo, and the story took a back burner. The difference with Halo, with a lot of different games, it has a good balance of, in general, I'm not saying every game, but it has a good balance of a storyline that's engaging and fun, but also multiplayer that is, engaging and fun as well. And no, most series they have one or the other. Like Call of Duty, they have a single player, but it kind of usually it's not very long and it's kind of Same thing with Battlefield, but their bread and butter is multiplayer. And then vice versa, a lot of other games that are trying to incorporate multiplayer when they're single player games, the multiplayer looks like it's second fiddle to the main story. Halo has a way of actually making the storyline, in theory, making the storyline just as good as the multiplayer. There were hiccups along the way. Obviously, 343 didn't hit it out of the park with, and I think the expectation for 343 were so high with 4, they couldn't make it, they couldn't attain that level of uh, expectation. And I think 5, they took a step back. 5, they really took a step back. Now, why? I don't know. The story was, I remember the story being disjointed, and you didn't really play as Master Chief much. You played mostly as other characters. And Halo is Master Chief. I mean, the thing is it's great. So then you have Halo Infinite, which started off on the wrong foot, which basically, they had a reveal about a year ago at E3. Everybody poo-pooed. It looked horrible, yada, 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 and okay, whatever. Now, I do understand from a Microsoft perspective, it sucked that they had to delay Halo Infinite a year, because they still had to release the console, and they weren't able to release Halo Infinite. In fact, Halo Infinite logo is on the Xbox Series X. I don't know about the Series S, but I know the Series X, it has like Halo on it, right, as the main game. And it didn't come out, so that was a bit of the disappointment. Yada yada yada. Took their time. They said it would be delayed a year. They were upfront, which I do appreciate. A lot of fans weren't happy about that. Some people were on the fence. It's like, okay, whatever. And then they had the whole debacle with Cyberpunk 2077, and a lot of players were thinking, well, will Halo fall in the same basket as Cyberpunk 2077? Because Halo Infinite technically could play on the original Xbox as well. But I think, don't quote me on this, I think that Halo Infinite, it's not ported to the actual Xbox One. It's actually playing through xCloud. So you're playing through xCloud, which is a Series S. Or a 1X. I forget what the blades are, but the servers are. But basically, you're playing on cloud. You're not playing on the original Xbox. So that's why I was able to handle it. Now, I played the multiplayer on my on my Xbox One S, and on my original Xbox One, which chugs like a mother tucker. Like, honestly, it's horribly slow. And it played fine. The multiplayer, I had no problems. I suck at multiplayer, but that's me. That's not the machine. So that's kind of where Halo Infinite kind of felt, and that was the precursor to the release of the game. So in November, they kind of did a shadow drop-in, a shadow release of the multiplayer on the anniversary of Halo, which is actually pretty cool that they did that, and it's free to play. And to keep in mind, Halo Infinite is on Game Pass. You don't have to buy it. This is the first game I actually haven't bought. The first Halo main game that I haven't bought. I have 1 to 5 on disc, and I didn't buy it Halo Infinite. It's on Game Pass, so I didn't have to buy it. I might actually still buy it when it goes down in price, but hey, great. I didn't have to dish out to play the game. So it's, I believe, also on PC on Game Pass, which is actually pretty sweet. All right, so that was the precursor to the game. The game gets released. Everybody, reviews more or less go along the lines of it's positive review. But there are certain things that a lot of reviews didn't cover, and I find it actually detracted me a bit, not from the main game itself, but from the overall polish of the product. So let's start with the visual aspect. The visual aspect, it looks fantastic. The worlds, a lot of people with the reveal, a lot of the trailers that they saw, especially the gameplay demo, I think they did a month ago or so. A lot of people thought that this would be a Ubisoft Lite, because a lot of stuff seemed to indicate stuff like, it's open world, and there's fobs that you can actually go and get, and so on and so forth. So there is an element of it's a full open world. So everybody says, "Oh, it's an open world," and yada yada. It's a full open world. Um, the one thing I have to say though, so it is a full open world. So the way I can explain it, probably the game that comes closest to the way this is set up is probably Metro Exodus. Metro Exodus had a similar feel. Although I like the story more for Metro Exodus, technically, I know they're not the same thing at all, but I did. I was more engaged in that story than this one. The story is not as bad. It it just finishes abruptly. So it does finish. It feels very Halo 2 ish in a sense that there's gonna be more coming, and it might be in DLC, it might be whatever, but so the original idea of Halo Infinite was it's supposed to be a 10-year project where they update it ever so often with season passes and stuff. So it does feel the main storyline is like, it's kind of like it finished a little bit abruptly. But it's the idea is the same. There's different areas you can conquer. You have fights with the banished and so on and so forth, and you can win a fob, which is basically bases. So it's enemy bases. You beat them, they become yours. There's areas where you can find. There's a lot of little things you can find in the game. Actually, it's very similar to Metro Exodus in that way. There's a lot of audio. The audio files feel very Bioshockish. Like it's a mix of it's a mix of Deus Ex and Bioshock. It's like big tablets, and you can find audio logs for the UNSC. You can find it for the Banished. There's the Forerunners where you can find their skulls. You can try and find, which that game made a comeback. I didn't find half of the stuff. Like I mean, it's some stuff is in the main storyline, but a lot of stuff you have to kind of go off the beaten path and kind of find it on your own. There's audio cues when you're close to one. It kind of there's like a beacon kind of sound. So there's that. So it does. I think from an as far as Halo is concerned, it did the open world pretty well. The one thing I have to say is what I was planning to do is do some side quests and then do main story and then some side quests and main story. That's kind of not what it did. Once you go into the main storyline, like there's the dig site. After that, you get out. You can do some side quests, right? You're out of that. Then there's a point where this main story continues, and there's a point of no return. You don't go out, you don't see the map. You're just continuing the main story, and that's why I kind of was surprised that I finished tonight because I didn't expect it to finish right now. I had 3, 4 boss fights tonight, and I didn't expect it to play, to finish now today. So, yeah, it's a little bit unbalanced. I'm hoping that if there's any DLC or anything that extends the storyline, you'll be able to go back to the main lands and try and find all the things because I haven't tried it. I just literally finished the game. I don't know if you can go back or not. But it'll be the replay value from the single player perspective would be pretty cool because you can go back and actually try and find all the skulls, try and find all the audio files, logs, and it gives you a bit of context in terms of the story, which is pretty cool. The thing is that it doesn't find them necessarily in order. So I would have to listen to them, like the ones that I found, I would have to listen to them in order to make sure that I understand what the storyline was. Because listening to them as they're going along, it's kind of like bits and pieces of a puzzle. But I'm assuming if you've listened to the whole thing, you get the whole idea of it. The storyline is relatively short. To be honest, it's long for a Halo game. This one is anywhere between 15 and 20 hours, depending on what you do. It could be longer. Obviously, if you did more of the side quests, you can probably get it done in 15 hours, maybe 12 if you're a speedrunner, or somebody that completes it really fast and you just do the main story. So it is long for Halo, but it is relatively short for a similar type of game. But I still enjoyed the story. A lot of people were disappointed by the story, and I can understand why. They botched 5. They tried to fix what they didn't do in 5 properly. And I think personally they kind of did it in the way, and I said this at the end of my stream. It did feel as if they already had this planned ahead of time. Like, even though a lot of people pooped on 5, I think the storyline was actually defined for Infinite a long time ago, and they knew where they were going. Maybe they tweaked it along the way. Maybe they did because 5 had such a bad thing. Maybe they tweaked it, but it does feel as if they had this in mind. Having said that, I find that the way everything circles together is a little bit too, I don't know, for lack of better words, like Hollywoodian. Like it's very like um it's basically like um you know everything is finishing really really nicely, and everybody, Cortana is in the good graces of of Master Chief, and everything is fine, and so on and so forth. So um and the way that things ended up, it was a little bit like too like, and I'm not blaming the game per se, because a lot of Hollywood movies are like that as well. It's been maybe 15 years where a lot of movies don't actually conclude very well. They just finish. There's never a part of the movie that concludes, and I think this is kind of a similar idea. It did feel like it finished pretty abruptly after the final fight, and there's going to be something new because they kind of end up somewhere. I don't know where that's going to lead, when new content is going to be released, but alas. So, from a story perspective, I have to say it's maybe not the best story, but it did the job. It did what it was supposed to do. Gameplay wise, I have nothing to say badly about the game. Um, it's very smooth. Um, Never noticed any stuttering, or very rarely. I think it crashed once, I believe, but it was during quick resume, and sometimes that happens with quick resume. So, I mean, I'll give it a pass. It happened only once. There's one part of the game though that did bug on me. There was a part of the mission where you're supposed to, get a bunch of beacons and destroy them, essentially, or no, get the data from them. And there's one. So basically, when you get to a beacon, it's like a bus. It's a horde fight. It's basically a bunch of enemies. You kill them all, and then you're able to go in once you finish the battle. There's one battle in particular I wasn't actually able. It said that there were still enemies nearby, and I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it. I had to travel out of that area, go back in, redo the fight, and then it worked. So I don't know if that was a no me that didn't find the enemy in per se, or that was a bug. I didn't hear this anywhere else, so this felt a little bit weird. So maybe it was something with me. Maybe I didn't find the enemy. It is possible. Um, what else? Um, so from a gameplay perspective, very smooth. Didn't have much to say about it. It was pretty nice, with the visuals, the music. The soundtrack is fantastic. It's what you're grown to expect from a Halo game. The soundtrack is fantastic. Inconsistent, but fantastic. Like, sometimes you'll be walking. So when you're in a fight, the music kicks up. But then sometimes you're walking from one destination to the other because you can't fast travel. And sometimes it's really, really quiet. And then sometimes music just pops out of nowhere. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no enemies around. The game just decides to put music out of nowhere. So maybe I hit something in the game where it triggered the music. I don't know. It's a little bit inconsistent. But the actual soundtrack itself is very, very good. The one negative I would have to say, and it took me about, now that I finished playing the game, about 3/4 of the game to realize this. I had a lot of problems upgrading my cores, my no abilities. So you have the grapple hook that you're able to get. That's not a secret. You can upgrade your armor, and there's a few others that you can upgrade. Okay, fine. But I was able to upgrade the first one, but then I was never able to go to the other ones. And I tried I could not figure for the life of me how to navigate the menus properly. And the menus looked really, really weird when you're navigating them. No, it sometimes it pressed on the side and then you finally highlighted something and then you were able to navigate. Sometimes that didn't work. It was like completely random. Maybe it's because I didn't figure out how to do it. Then I went on Reddit. I found a post on Reddit where apparently other players were having the same issue. And this is not necessarily a PC thing. I think this is more of an Xbox Series issue with the controller. So when you're going in the settings, there's an option for availability, I think. And in there, there's an option for. Actually, I'm going to look it up now because I can't. I finished the game. There's a part, and then there's it's basically a navigation. It's like linear menu navigation or something, and that's turned on. I turned it off, and then it becomes a menu like any other game. Why that option is there, I have no idea. It makes zero sense, but it's there, and I don't know. It took me a while to figure out to turn that off. Thank the Lord I figured that out. Then I was able to upgrade my shield and so on and so forth. So so from that took a bit away from the polish of the game. I felt like the game overall was okay, but that particular one was annoying to me. And unfortunately, it should be toggled off by default. Honestly, I don't even know why that option is there. So we went through the graphics, which were pretty good. The story, which was better than I expected. It did the job. The gameplay, fantastic. I can't say anything about it. So my overall approach to Halo, I think that this is one of the good Halo entries into the series. I do believe this is one of the better attempts by 343 Industries. They still haven't had. I'll wait to pass judgment on whatever content gets released or the next Halo comes out. But they've never been able to hit the heights of what Bungie was able to do. And I think that they took a right step in the right direction for Halo Infinite. Now the next one would really determine if, this one and the next one would determine how well it is, how 343 finally made their stamp on the series. 4 is kind of forgetful in a way. It's one of those games, and 5 is just notorious because it was horrible and everybody hated it. And I think Halo Infinite is really good, and the fact that the multiplayer seems to be doing really, really well with players. I think that's going to go a long way for replayability. I think a lot of people are going to be playing Halo for a while. Then again, a lot of people played Halo 5, the multiplayer. That's the aspect they liked. They didn't really like the story, but they liked the multiplayer. So if they keep giving out content, pushing out content for the main story, I don't know if that would be released on Game Pass or if you would have to purchase it. But that's good. I think if I had to give it a rating, I think that I would give it a solid 7.5 to 8. I think it did the job. The gameplay, you're playing it for the gameplay, and the gameplay was fun. Sometimes it felt a little bit repetitive. Um, you know, sometimes I do feel that the grapple hook is actually overpowering, especially when you upgrade it all the way to the end. It's a bit overpowered, but at the end of the day, it's actually pretty good. So yeah, I had fun. I actually had fun playing this. In fact, tonight I wanted to play a little bit longer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to play this a little bit longer, and then look at that, I finished the game. So I'm probably going to go back if I can to finish some side stuff. I don't know if I'll do it on stream, but I will be probably doing it. I do want to go play some multiplayer. Now that I played the main game, I think I have an idea. I think the grapple hook and the shield, I think, is an extra in the multiplayer. Like you don't have it in the multiplayer. You have to gain it and then you can use it. Yeah, so I think that is it. It's a good entry in a Halo world. I think Halo's on the right track. I think they're doing pretty good. I do like how the way the world looks. The game does look fantastic. I have to say, it looks freaking awesome. And I think that extra year. See, this is where I think gaming companies did well by taking that extra year. They did it right. Where Cyberpunk kind of rushed things out, even if they delayed it, and they kind of delayed it, and then I think they succumbed to pressure from their own stakeholders to release something, and it botched. I think Microsoft couldn't afford Halo to be a horrible game or a bad game. I think it, in most fans' eyes, not the hardcore fans. The hardcore fans are always going to look at Halo in a no pink lenses. No, they're always going to see everything rosy and everything is fine. From a middle of the road Halo kind of guy, like I am a fan of the series, but I'm not like a hardcore fan. I think they did a good with this entry. I think it fits in a conversation in one of the better Halos, just for the way. Because the thing is, even in the first few games, one of the things that I remember telling myself is it would be super awesome if I could navigate the world and just walk around. And he did this with this one. And now we have the hardware and we have the capability to actually do that. And he did it. So I think this is going to suit a lot of players. Um, do I see it fit in the first three? No, the first three from Bungie, I think is they're superior storyline wise. I really like them. I think this is by far the best 343 Industries Halo game that they released. It's better than main storyline. I'm saying this is better than four. It's better than five. I'll definitely like this, and I actually wanted to play more of it. I actually wanted to get more into the story and see like where are we going from here. So that's a good sign, right? I can't say I said that a lot about like other games as well. But I'm not a super critical kind of guy in terms of story. Like to me, if it keeps me entertained, it's fine. Like I don't nitpick and say, "Oh, it's not part of the lore. It's not this." You know what? If the storyline is interesting, I'll be fine. And in this case, it suited my needs. The gameplay is fun. It's so silky smooth. Like just the controls, it's just everything just fit perfectly, and I really appreciate it. So, yeah, if I you have no, I mean, if you're on the Xbox Series X, chances are you have Game Pass or a Series or a PC. You gotta try it. You don't have to buy it. You can try it. Now, for those that don't have Game Pass, should you buy Halo? It's a hard sell right now. If you're not a fan of the series, obviously, if you're a fan of the series, obviously yes. If you're not, I might actually wait for more content to get released, especially if you're a story kind of guy, and see where it goes. But no, if it's $60 for this game or $70 for this game, um, I would say wait a little bit. Anyways, there's going to be sales. Anyways, like there's always sales. But for those that are on Game Pass, you have no reason not to try this, especially if you like FPSs. So really, really liked it. Hope that you guys liked my stream of Halo Infinite. I shall see you next time for my next review. Have a good one, guys. Ciao.